The following is a production of the 2- and 4-year communication programs offered at SUNY Cobleskill. It's another edition of the Things Happening on Campus That You Didn't Know About, but Probably Should podcast. I'm your host, Chris Parlato. Hang out with us for a little bit. Hi, welcome back to our 7th edition of Things Happening on Campus You Didn't Know About But Probably Should. I'm your host, Chris Parlato. Today I have with me the Chief of Police on campus from UPD, William Henn.
Hello, Chris. How are you? Pleasure meeting you.
Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get right into it. So how long have you been here? How long have you been worked on campus?
I've been on campus. I did the tabulations the other day. It's about 133 days, so just a little over 4 months, 4.75 months. I'm new to the campus, so I originally came over from SUNY to campus. So happy to be here. I'm enjoying it so far. It's been a lot. So
that's great. So did you start as chief here?
I came onto this campus as chief. I took a promotional from assistant chief on the SUNY to campus.
So how is that different? I'm wondering how it's different here to Oneon. I know Oneon is a much bigger school as far as the amount of students, right?
Yeah, it's about 1/3 the size of Oneon, and it's different. The role is different, but also the college is different. It's the different programs, different feel to campus. Both very alive, very exciting times with the students. Primarily on the Oneon campus, I was doing operations, so I managed events and all that stuff. Here it's more of an administrator role in overseeing the whole department, coming up with operational plans, but not necessarily executing them in the field. So it's more an administrative policy, general orders, and managing than it is the operational day-to-day stuff. So a little different that way, but very similar themes, both great campuses.
So you're like a lot of like work in the office and stuff like that. Is that Johnson Hall? Because I know I was in Alumni Commons last semester, and I would walk past Johnson Hall every day, and I always saw like the university police cars. Is that where you guys are located?
Yeah, right at Johnson Hall, right there. We have the main face of the main face of the department is on Route 7. It's kind of right in the middle of the north and south of campus. And the Commons is behind it, and the main campus is across the street. So yeah, where you see all the police cars, that's usually where we are. So that's our main base.
So what are some things you like about working on campus, or with that being said, don't like?
Oh, it is really pretty minimal. The don't like is always the paperwork. Being a chief of police, there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of correcting paperwork, a lot of checking paperwork, a lot of creating policy and making paperwork. So that would be the dislike, and it brought that up first only because it's a smaller pile. Like on campus, I really like the rhythm and flow of campus. When I first landed here, it was the crush right before semester started, so right before everybody moved in, and it was kind of slow, but gave me time to get my feet under me and get going on campus. But once it came alive and all the students were back and things were going, I love that feeling of just back to doing. That's why we're all here, is to make campus the best for the students, and that was what was going on. So I love the engagement, I love the students, and I also love the fellow employees. I love doing things like this with students like this to help them out with their careers, but also to exemplify what University Police does here on campus.
Yeah, that's great. I also enjoyed talking to and also just like not just for the viewers, but a lot of these are also just for myself. Just learning about the different things on campus. Doing this, I've learned so much, and hopefully it's good exposure for the university police too, to kind of get that out there, because I think speaking of things happening on campus people don't know about, I've actually met students who don't even know that there is university police on campus.
Yeah, but we're kind of, some people know us and utilize us a lot, which is great, and other people don't even know that we exist, which is also good for us as well. It's kind of the duality of our role. We're there if you need us, and we're not there if you don't need us, but we are always keeping over the eye of safety on campus. So yeah, good, thanks. But I appreciate you inviting us here today, because I do like to talk about us, and it's also good to help you with your project. We're number 7 from what I understand, right, of your podcast? That's fantastic.
So what other kinds of things have you done? Like I know you mentioned you started pretty recently, just before the semester, as chief of police here. What are some other things you've done, like roles you've had at SUNY Oneonta, or have you had any roles at any other universities? Tell me about like some other experience you've had with that.
Sure. So yeah, most recently here at SUNY Cobleskill, and before that I did about 4 years in SUNY Oneonta. I went there as an assistant chief, and I came there from the Otsego County Sheriff's Office. I started my career way back in 2003, actually in corrections in the state of Maine. And then after that, I moved to Arizona, and I was a police officer on the border down in Arizona for 4 years. And then I came back and I went to the village of Cooperstown as a police officer there for about 7 years. And then I transferred to the sheriff's office. So when I went to SUNY Oneonta, I went there because SUNY Oneonta had a police academy that the sheriff's office instructed a lot at. And being a police instructor, I spent a lot of time on the campus. So when the position opened for assistant chief, somebody said, hey, you would be great for that. You have some good ideas. You're a good instructor, those things like that. Maybe you would put your name in a hat. So I did, and lo and behold, I became the assistant chief there. So I felt a lot of different roles as police officer, all the way up to investigator, to assistant chief, to chief. And through my police career, I've done a lot of different things, such as I was on SWAT teams, I was a crisis negotiator, I've done a basic mental health training, I've done all sides of training. The one thing I like to tell students, but also police officers when they start out their career, is to just try things in your careers, try things, and you might create your own path that you had no idea you were ever going to take when you started out. So I've been doing this over 20 years, and I never expected myself to be an assistant chief or a chief on a college campus. But my love of education and teaching and instructing kind of brought me that route. So that's been pretty good.
So would you say this is something, I know you only started 4 months ago, but would you say this is something that you like compared to some of, because you mentioned you had many different jobs, that you've been kind of all over the place, and not even just as far as different positions, but all over the country. What would you say would be like one of your favorite positions?
Well, I got to say this right now because I'm doing it now. It's probably the most fresh in my mind. I've had a lot of joy and I don't want to say disappointment. That's too harsh a word, but dislike of some of the things that I've gone through or tried. And that's all part of growing and learning, especially in one's professional growth. It's just trying things. I really like this now. I enjoy this part of my career. When you start out in law enforcement, sometimes you're excited and you want to do what they do on TV, where you're running and gunning and kicking doors and driving and doing those things. But as you mature in your career, you kind of slow down a little bit and you realize that it's more about creating the next generation of law enforcement and also creating the next generation of public safety and community policing interaction that way. So I'm really enjoying this now. We in police usually have a 20 or 25 year retirement. I'm at the 21-year mark now, 25 for university policing is where I'd have to go, but I don't see any end in sight for me. I'd like to keep doing this as long as I can, and perhaps maybe finding another course, 5, 10 years, maybe 15 years of something else that I can do in policing. But this is really good right now.
Yeah, that's great to kind of find your thing that you like doing most. And you mentioned you were part of the sheriff's department. What exactly is that? Is that like separate from the police? What is that? Just like, tell me a little about that.
Yeah, so I was with the Otsego County Sheriff's Office, and each we'll start all the way at the top. The federal has federal policing like FBI, CIA, all those big federal programs, and then each state has like typically state police troopers or a division that's managed by the state. And then there's county sheriffs, and there's municipal police, such as town or village police officers. And then like New York City has a city police department, and then university policing is like a specialized police. So university police manages just our geographical area of responsibility and enforcement is really just the campus. And we don't even really go to other campuses to patrol there unless special request is made or they're doing an event. So really we just manage this police, any kind of police call or public safety that comes in here, we manage as the police department. If something's going on in the village police department would handle that. The county can oversee all of that, in which it encapsulates in the county, so they can respond to those calls, but typically they just do calls that don't fall into, say, the university or the village. So they're a bigger footprint, but they often don't go into the jurisdictions that have other smaller jurisdictions in them. Does it kind of make sense? So it's kind of like a bigger agency. They cover more geographical area, but they don't take the priority calls from within a smaller jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's thanks for explaining that. I actually I've heard of that, the sheriff's department, before, and I never even really knew what that was. But
yeah, and you'll see a lot of different agencies. They have specialties. Like we're primarily educational enforcement, all that stuff on campus, dealing with just the college. The county sheriff, they can deal with everything from stuff that we would deal on campus, but they might also have a foot in a little bit of the NCOT or DEC realm, specialty environmental stuff like that. So their exposure to different types of crimes and different portfolios of involvement, whether it be community policing or criminal enforcement, is different, and it's a little more global. So
would you say, have you been here long enough to see anything that you would say was kind of like scary or kind of like a very significant event, whether it was something negative or positive?
But not to go too deep into what can be scary or whatnot, but I mean, I think
if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, the scariest thing that I've had on campus to the moment would be the power outage, because you never know how long this is going to go. So we have a population here on campus. If the power out, we have to cancel classes. That's a severe interruption to the students. education and possibly residency if we had to shut down for longer than that. It was managed very well. We got it wrapped up in a short amount of time, a couple hours. We were back live with power and all that stuff. So that was scary in the moment, but overall, I think with the national conversation, we're always fearful, especially as a police chief or police department, about acts of violence on campus or any population, whether it be village population or county population, acts of violence. And that's the stuff that keeps me awake at night, is what is the harmful risks that are seen or unseen that could occur on campus that would put our population in jeopardy. So nothing specific has occurred. Hopefully it doesn't, but that's always what runs in the background is risk management of what could happen. So we always plan for that.
At least I haven't heard of anything like that going on, which is a good thing. I know it's a smaller school too, which hopefully means there's less likely of things like that happening. But
it could happen anywhere, and we always want to just be prepared for that, and we do education for that, and we hope it never happens to any population. We know that it is a growing concern and situation across America. So just acts of violence is a difficult thing to deal with. So
I know that they've had a few events on campus that they've had. I've seen you guys, the UPD came and helped out, like they did like the Halloween party. And
it's good about it. Yeah. So we always like to have a presence, whether it be needed or unneeded, but we also like to be a part of the community. I think another big piece of the conversation for policing in America nowadays too is, at the end of the day, our police officers were human, right? So we like to be seen in with our people and our constituents and our community. We like to be seen as part of the community, not just policing, but we are there obviously to keep a public safety footprint and to be ever watchful and vigilant of what could potentially happen to that population when there are a large number of people in a space. So going with that same vein, it's always important if anybody sees something or hears something to get a hold of us to let us know. That way we can do our best to thwart any kind of issues before they happen, but hopefully nothing ever happens. And it's a very good campus, but again, could happen anywhere. And we do like to think that we are a good community of students and faculty and staff here on campus. So
yeah, that's great. And I know I feel safer knowing that there's university police on campus.
Good.
And I hope that that's something that a lot of students know, and to have that reassurance to know, because I think a lot of students don't know that that you guys are here, and that's an option to go reach out or let somebody know if something's going on.
100%. And like I said before, some people don't even know where Johnson Hall is or where University Police is located. And yet, if they ever have a question, even if they don't think it's criminal or it's going to waste our time, I would rather have anybody give us a call and have us figure out if it's something we need to respond to, or we can just give them information or resources or connect them to other services or other police agencies that might be able to help them out. I would rather field a call that didn't rise to the muster of a criminal case than have somebody wondering what they should have done or wonder if they should have called us. So, yeah, people definitely call us, get us involved, whether it be something they think is criminal or not. We're happy to be there, and the more people that know we're there, the better off we are. So we're happy to help.
That's all I have for today. Thanks so much for joining me today.
No, fantastic. I appreciate all your time. Thank you.
Great talking to you.
Great talking to you as well.
So I think that wraps up this edition of Things Happening on Campus You Didn't Know About But Probably Should. I'm your host, Chris Parlato. See you next time.